welcome everybody. I'm sure we'll have more folks trickling in, so feel free to find a seat wherever you can. There's plenty of space up at the front row. This is like teaching at CU right now. No one likes to sit up front. So, welcome everybody to the 2024 Colorado Pollinator Summit. I'll be your host today, Dr. Adrian Carper, now a senior ecologist and climate initiatives at the City of Boulder, but also still with the CU Museum of Natural History. So happy to be hosting again today. And want to give a big thanks to everybody, orient you to a few things this morning, and let you know exactly how the run of show today is going to take place. So, if you haven't noticed, we don't have a printed program this year. We're trying to be as sustainable as possible, so you'll have noticed a QR code. If you haven't gotten it, you can take your phone right now, point at that QR code with your camera, and it'll take you to the website where you can see all of the detailed information that I have up here about our speakers, the schedule, so you can orient yourself to the day and learn more about what we're doing. And boy, oh boy, is it a full schedule. So we've got a lot to go over today. You can tell just by this schedule that people are really excited about sharing about pollinators. And so most of today's sessions will be right here in Sturm Auditorium, including our keynotes and most of our sessions. There will be a really unique session mid-morning where we'll move from here. We'll take a little walk down to Mitchell Hall where we'll hear from Classrooms for Climate Action's kids about what they're doing to help better understand the relationships between climate, heat, and our pollinators. Let's see, what else on here? If you didn't this morning get a chance to check out exhibitors, definitely during breaks, during lunch, or at the end of the day, once we wrap up our programs in here, check out our exhibitors and our sponsors, many of them, in Classroom 1, right in the front doors where you came in here on this end of the building. Also, you get free access to all the gardens here. So we definitely want you networking during lunch and in between these breaks, but if you have some extra time, enjoy the gardens, walk around. The Denver Botanic Gardens is an amazing place to visit, much less to host our summit, and so a huge thanks to them for letting us be here. I think we'll go into intros as we go through these. And so one of the things I like to do when I first start out is remind everybody why we're here. And so this summit is hosted by the Colorado Pollinator Network, which was established in 2016 with a mission of bringing together organizations to work collaboratively to conserve, protect, and create pollinator habitat while also educating communities across our state on how we can better protect them, all right? And our network allows for not just organizations, but individuals to interact together to hopefully have more positive impacts on the health of our state's pollinators. And we do that by sharing information on things like best practices, resources that we've all collaboratively developed, and knowledge to help support education, conservation, and restoration initiatives really focused on pollinators. And I think one of the biggest things that I could point to, oftentimes I do a whole bunch of successes at the beginning of this summit, but I think one of the biggest successes that we have right now is the first and most comprehensive statewide report on our native pollinating insects. If you weren't aware, I'll take applause for everybody who helped on this. I think this is just so illustrative of how interest from the communities has driven statewide action now focused on how we better conserve, protect, and manage for our native pollinators. If you're not familiar with this thing, it landed January 1, 2024. So it started the year off with a bang, and it's a huge bang, 300 pages, covering everything from a review of the scientific understanding of what the status of our native pollinators are to really intricate conservation practices down to the detail of how our land managing agencies could be doing it slightly different or better, right? And not only that, but outlining future priorities in a really simplified format for our legislators and lawmakers on how we could be adapting our policies and regulations so we can include rare and imperiled plants and native insects. So you'll hear more about that in a future session. But I also like to point out that there are tons of appendices in here. This is not just a nebulous state report. Our hope was that anybody in this audience could go to this report, look through the table of contents, which are quite extensive, and find something that not only interests you, but would be valuable to how you're trying to help pollinators in your own activities. So definitely a huge win. And I like to bring that up because it's not just for our government, it's for us. When you look at our mission as the Colorado Pollinator Network, you'll notice that we're talking about the health of all of our pollinators across the state. And I'm just going to get a little philosophical here because it's a difficult time to put really complex concepts into terms of ours, right? Some of you have had a lot of anxiety for some different reasons over the past few weeks, months, even years, right? And yet we're all in this together, right? It's our landscapes, they're our pollinators. So when I feel anxious, I retreat to my happy place, the beautiful mountains of our state. I sit in a melting glacier and look out at the landscape and say, oh, why do I do what I do? Do you all feel this? Anxiety. And the reason that I do what I do is because I have hope that what I do matters and that it's helping to build more resilient ecosystems. High alpine communities that are resilient to things like climate change, which is restructuring the plant and pollinator communities in our high elevation systems. Resilient agricultural systems, which are more tolerant of things like drought and extreme weather, and to market-driven commodity changes, right? That impact not only the food that we eat, but the pollinators that depend on our food and vice versa. And resilient against apathy, which is that kind of dragging down feeling that says, what can we do? The problems are so big. Can I even make a difference? Yeah, you can, right? Creating resilient communities is about getting up in the morning when you don't feel like it because every little step you take can help us make a difference. And resilient to the things that divide us, whether they be political or social or economic or ideological, because bridging those differences for things which we hold in common, like concern for our native pollinators, is how you get things done, right? That's what governance is all about, and we're all involved in governance. And of course, all of these things are intricate to creating resilient pollinator communities, right? You can't have resilient communities without all these different ways of building resilience within our own communities to perturbations that come along with change. And change is natural. And yet, without creating resilient pollinator communities, we won't have food systems or natural environments or clean air or water, right? It's all interconnected. And so I take hope in that what little bit I can do is helping us build resiliency in all of our systems. I think one of the best ways you can see just how this blankets our state, that everybody is concerned, is iNaturalist. Just a show of hands, how many people in here use iNaturalist now? So I started hosting the summit, 5 years ago now? 2020. And this is how many records of bees existed on iNaturalist. So if you look on this map, every little orange dot is an individual observation of a bee. There were about 1,800 people looking for bees across the state, and there were about 8,000 observations. Just watch this map change through time from 2021 to 2022 to 2023. Now by 2024, so much more orange. 32,000 observations of bees across our state from 5 times as many observers, right? Give yourselves a huge round of applause. This is pretty spectacular increases we've seen in 5 years of how many people are feeling the need to contribute to our distributional understanding of pollinators, right? I find that super impressive. I always like to show some stats up here at this. I'm like, okay, who's in the lead right now? We've had some chains up. Stainless Bee and Pam Piambino has always been up in number 2. I think I know Lucas Wheeler. I don't know Antimatter Bee. Antimatter Bee in the audience? I'm just curious. You don't have to raise your hand. Man, that's a lot of observations, 470. They need to go on a hike with me so they can learn a little more diversity. They've got 9 species compared to other folks. You won't see a Carper up there. Wait, where do I come up? Oh, 85th down the rankings. That's not so great. But if you notice, I've got a good diversity here. And one of the things you'll notice is that most of our observations, 5,000 of them nearly are honeybees. And then bumblebees make up a lot of them. And then, surprisingly enough, the ligated furrow bee, a really, really common ground nesting social halictid. Anyway, enough data. But not only does the distribution on the map across our state look impressive, but when you look at the distribution of you guys in our audience, I'm equally impressed. We've got 250 attendees today. And when you look, I broadly categorize them across what role you play in pollinator conservation. Basically, a third of them are made up of government employees interested in pollinators. Another third by nonprofits and academics who are trying to understand more about the distributions and conservation statuses of our native pollinators. And then the final third, made up of community members, businesses, private entities who are saying, look, I can do my work and make a living while trying to make a difference. How impressive is that? So a huge thank you to all of you for being here. And of course, a thanks to our sponsors. Without their financial support, we wouldn't be able to bring you this summit every year. Many of these are also tabling downstairs as exhibitors, so please go visit them in our breaks. A thanks to all of our pollinator friends and exhibitors. Highly recommend that you go talk with folks. It's one of the best ways to get engaged and to find resources that can help you on your journey towards helping our pollinators. And a big thanks to our summit team. So you might see folks around, floating around, helping out. They've done so much to help bring this together, and I don't have time to thank every single person who's been a part of this, but it's a huge undertaking next year. And if it's something you want to help with, shoot the Colorado Pollinator Network an email. Let us know if you want to be involved, if you want to help, and I'm sure we can find some way that you can contribute. So if you haven't had a chance yet, make sure you scan this barcode. Looking for phones across the audience. And we'll try to keep on schedule today. So without further ado, I'm going to take just a short little break and pull up our keynotes slides. Thank you.